One of the most underrated abilities or skill areas in football is football IQ. Many people, many players look past this because they want to learn the skills, the tricks, the things with the ball, and I get it, that's the fun thing to do. But if you don't have a good IQ, if you don't have good decision making and things of this nature, again, it doesn't matter how good you technically are with the ball. This is why freestylers, for example, aren't always the best when it comes to playing in games. Not always, sometimes they are, but a lot of times they're also not. Because ultimately it comes down to the IQ of knowing how to operate in a game, make good decisions. And so I'm going to give you some of the best tips to improve your IQ, to really elevate this, because once you become a really good player as far as IQ goes on the pitch, you become an asset for your team, making the right decision more often than not, seeing things that other players aren't seeing, for example. So let's jump into it. So we're going in reverse order, starting with number 4, and this is to watch high-level matches a lot. We're just coming off the World Cup, so hopefully you got your fill there, which there were some phenomenal matches in that World Cup. But if you watch high-level matches often, you're going to start picking up patterns that the best of the best are doing, right? You're going to start seeing the results of their training on match day. And so if you really want to see what high football IQ looks like, watch these players, watch these matches. Now, of course, we can all look at players who we know have a really high football IQ. I think one with the highest right now is Kevin De Bruyne. I also like Thiago of Liverpool. These are players with extremely high IQ in the game, right? So if you watch them, look at their decision making, look at their movement, see what they're doing, and watch these high level matches to see how they use that to their benefit in matches. And again, that's going to help you to be able to pick up on those patterns, practice what you need to practice, and hopefully do it in your matches as well. Now, number 3 is you don't just passively watch these matches for simply just entertainment, you're studying them, you're analyzing them. So ask yourself questions as you are watching these matches. Why did Kevin De Bruyne do that? Could he have done this, this, or this? Could he, why did he choose option A versus option B? Why did he pull the trigger there, but hold back from pulling it here, right? When you ask yourself these questions, questions are the steering wheel of the mind. You'll start getting certain answers you can look at and start really analyzing whether you want to start doing some of these things in your matches. So if you're enjoying this video so far, please hit that like button and we'll move on to number 2. And number 2 is to analyze your own matches. You'll be surprised, especially if you film your own matches, what you thought you did during the game but maybe didn't, and vice versa. You'll be surprised, again, like when you analyze yourself, maybe some of the mistakes that you're making that you weren't realizing that you were making. And so it's crucial or can be very beneficial to record your matches. Now, if you can't record your matches, one thing you can do is to journal kind of immediately after your matches, or as soon as you can, so it's fresh in your mind, so you can journal on what you did well, what needs improving. You can analyze what's going on, what needs practice. For example, is your awareness not so good and you're realizing this every time you get the ball, you didn't realize there was a man over your shoulder, and you need to go out and practice, looking over your shoulder in your drills, right, to make sure you're actually scanning the space. That's just one example, right? So when you're journaling, at the very least, you're able to gain these awarenesses and understand what you need to improve. What is it that needs work in your game? And when you do that, again, you're not leaving anything up to chance or kind of just moving into things blindly. You're like, okay, I keep making this mistake. Let's look into how we can correct that so we stop making this mistake in games. Again, having recorded footage will give you even more of that insight, but at the very least, I would recommend that you journal. And number 1, like I mentioned, kind of with the scanning, is to improve your awareness. And the reason this is so crucial for IQ is because the more you're aware of, the more decisions you ultimately can make. And then when your IQ is good, you can choose the right one more often than not. But for example, again, if you don't know someone's over your shoulder, well, then you might panic. You have limited options, where if you know he's there, then you now suddenly have more information. I can turn out this way, I can try and spin them, I can shield the ball, I can just play it back immediately. Suddenly you have more decision space rather than being limited, right? When you improve your awareness. And again, simple things to do is just practice scanning, practice always getting your head up, as much as you can. If you look at some of the most aware players, like when Xavi and Iniesta played, you can watch clips of kind of how they were scanning all the time before getting it. And that's why his awareness was so good. It seemed like he was one step ahead of players. It seemed like he was smarter on the pitch. And one of the big things was because he was just more aware. Again, don't quote me on that. I just remember seeing that somewhere. But ultimately, the more awareness you you have of what's around you, where your opponents are, where your teammates are, where the space is, you're gonna start to be able to get a picture of how things are going to shift and change and what you're gonna be able to do in response to that. Now, if you really want to improve your awareness, I have a video right here you can go watch, which is going to help you improve your awareness and your decision making. So I'd go watch that next.